City, a little town where I'm from, where everybody's southern raised, just as good as they come. Backwoods and mossy oak and mud holes, and back then we only gave what the farm grow. Man, I miss some days how we played on them dirt roads, and out of towners came with respect, cause they know we all close. Yeah, Southern pride, towing gun folks. Welcome to my city, I-75 South, just north of Live Oak.
I'm from a city called Austin, Georgia, right on the border of Florida. I was raised on these dirt roads, mud tires, spin backwoods, running around this small town living, yeah. Now welcome to my city, time of town, 229, turn it up so they can hear it loud. We get it up with big trucks and heavy G's, pretty girls with moonshine and whiskey.
It's nothing like our dirt roads, you can bet that, son. I'm from a city, by any means we gon' protect our guns. I hang with the rednecks and geekies. We get up in big trucks in the backwoods like Indians and teepees. This the home of the mighty, mighty Vikings, Wildcats, Blazing, Titletown license, winners, pretty girls with country grammar. When I say about Austin, Georgia, I ain't talking about Atlanta. This a different type of city, where the woods are pretty, but get gritty, you hear me? What you know about that 229? You can find us on the Florida, Georgia line, where I reside.
I'm from a city called Austin, Georgia, right on the border of Florida. I was raised on these dirt roads, mud tires, spin backwoods, running around this small town living, yeah. Now welcome to my city, time of town, 229, turn it up so they can hear it loud. We get it up with big trucks and heavy G's, pretty girls with moonshine and whiskey. Georgia, right on the border of Florida. I was raised on these dirt roads, mud tires, spin backwoods, running around this small town living, yeah. Now welcome to my city, time of town, 229, turn it up so they can hear it loud. We get it up with big trucks and heavy G's, pretty girls with moonshine and whiskey.
Hey, good evening and welcome to the 229. You know, guys, what time it is. It's Thursday night and it's time for the Viking Nation Live. And I'm your host, Larry Godwin. You can call me LG. You can call me whatever you want. Is it just my audio or was that sped up? I don't know, Tira. I don't know. I'll check into it. I'm not sure. So anyway, I'm glad you guys are joining us tonight for another exciting. I gotta admit something. This has got to be the most entertaining local sports show ever. We talk about all kinds of stuff. Nothing's off limits here, within reason. That is, you know, some guys are kind of sanitary. You know, they keep it kind of blasé, that kind of stuff. But not here. You guys know what to expect from us for so far. And we've been doing this for how many years? I can't remember. We've been doing the Viking Nation on Facebook for, I think it's probably 10 plus years now, maybe 11 years. And I have forgotten how many episodes that we've done. Do you guys remember the very first episode that we ever did? This was probably back in 2020 when we started doing these live streamings. And I don't know if you remember what kind of led to us doing this, because we've been on Facebook for years, you know, doing photos and posting pictures and graphics and sharing things about the athletic programs there at Lowndes. And yeah, David, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the upcoming Vikings. Well, I'm just going down memory lane for right now. I'm actually stalling, waiting for my super fan co-host to show up. I'm not sure. No, I'm just kidding. Chase Garnto, he's had a long day at work. You know, he's embarking on a new career and he's enjoying it, and that's eating into some of his free time. And so I'm hoping that he's able to join us a little bit later on in the show. But I was just going down memory lane on how we started this show. This was back in 2020. Do y'all remember when COVID started and the pandemic and all the high schools shut down? And I remember it vividly because it was my daughter's senior year at Lowndes High School, and she was looking forward to prom and all the spring things that come along at Lowndes High School. And all of it was shut down all of a sudden. So we didn't have a live graduation. It was basically everything was taped and videoed and all that stuff. And I remember it was it was really due to her not being able to enjoy her senior spring season, as well as a lot of her friends were involved with the baseball team and all these other, the tennis team, the golf team, and all that was shut down. And I felt so bad. I felt so bad that these seniors were kind of overlooked. And so I took it upon myself to really, for her more than anything, to recognize the seniors. And I started doing something called Senior Spotlights. And we ran that show twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursday nights. And we started highlighting every senior that we could think of. If they were involved in any type of athletic or extracurricular activity, we had their coaches on. We started talking about and praising all the seniors. We just tried our very best to recognize the seniors that had given, basically up until that time, 3 years of their life to try to keep us entertained on the athletic field of competition. And all of us taken away from them. And so we felt like it was important to recognize them. And I'm so glad we did. And because of that effort, here we are in 2023, still going strong and still, it's just fun. Coach Trainer says, another 2-hour show tonight. Lowndes baseball is in Alabama playing in a term. Absolutely. They are in what, Trainer, they're in something called I've got it. I've got it right in front of me in my show notes. Something called the Perfect Game Showdown in Hoover, Alabama, at Hoover High School. So Lowndes plays at 7:30 Eastern tonight, taking on Daphne High School. So that's going to be fun. That's going to be fun. Trainer, what do you mean? Do you have schedule news? What do you mean by that? Schedule news. So I'm not sure what you mean by that. So, yeah, just shoot me a note or, post it here. So what do you mean by asking that? Now at 7:30 tonight, we do have a guest that is scheduled to call into the show. And that is Sam Horn, super fan for the Valdosta Wildcats. Now, before you get on to me and say, Larry, this is a Lounge show, it's a Viking Nation. Remember, during the off season, guys, we combine our two shows and we talk about the community in general. I just love the Viking Nation name. So that's what we're going to keep the name of the show during the off season. But I invite other people in the community. Like last week, we had James Gatlin, who is really doing a fantastic job of expanding the Pop Warner League football travel teams around here. And so he's been very instrumental in that effort. And so I thought it'd be a good idea just to keep you guys all informed. So Shade Singletary says, how's our football team this upcoming season? Shade, well, if you guys want to jump straight to football, that's fine. We're going to talk about a lot more of that a little bit later on. But just to answer your question, Shade, I think we're going to be good. Do we have the potential to be very, very good? Yes. But there's a caveat to that. Last year, we had a lot of young talent a lot of that young talent is returning. So that goes into the equation. Then they were developing, maturing, getting better. Now we saw the flurry of offers from D1 schools, mid-majors, D2 schools, a lot of offers to our athletes, student athlete football players over the off season. So you got to think that there's a lot of talent there because there are a lot of offers coming in. Now, kudos to the athletes for getting noticed, but kudos to Adam Carter and his new team as well, because they have been working their butts off promoting these student athletes to these colleges. So it's basically a team effort. So that goes into the equation. Now, here's the caveat, Shay. Carter is going to implement a new offense. Now, is it going to be dramatically different from last year? We don't know yet. I suspect that it will be because, you had Sean Sutton install his offense last year, and we saw that. And then we had a very young quarterback in Marvis Parrish who's got a year of experience under his belt. And so we got a new offensive coordinator that's coming in, a guy named Don Bailey from West Alabama University. He has been known to throw the ball around. So is he going to do that at Lions? We don't know yet. We don't know he doesn't know if he's got the personnel to do that yet. But we do know that he does have that experience and that background. Ashley Anders, he's coming back in return. I think this is going to be Ashley's second year as defensive coordinator. So his terminology and his experience is going to be very, very valuable, I think. The thing about Ashley Anders, he's a very experienced defensive coordinator. He knows how to get it done on the defensive side of the football. So when you marry those two things together and then put on top of that how well our special teams played last year, we had a fantastic freshman kicker. This Andrews kid, fantastic leg, right? So he's returning for his sophomore season. And I got to think that his leg's going to be even stronger this coming year. So I think in all three phases, we should see a much, much improved Lions Vikings this year. And so we're going to see. We're going to see. Trainer says, let me just go ahead and put this. Trainer says, just wondering if there's any news on the schedule release or any word as far as new opponents goes. Those Florida games are 1-year contract. That is correct. They were 1-year contracts. And Florida did something quirky during the offseason. Here's what happened last year. So the game was scheduled with American Heritage, and I can't remember who Colquitt played in that first game. But the team that was playing Colquitt, did y'all know that they almost backed out of that game? Because they thought initially, leading up to several weeks before the game, this is what I'm being told. They thought that game was going to be a preseason scrimmage game because Florida's got a quirky rule that our week 0 at Georgia is basically their Florida's preseason week. That's right, Trainer. It was Deerfield Beach. So it's Florida's preseason week. And so there was a big concern whether or not that game was actually going to count for Deerfield Beach. And they almost pulled out. And so I'm not sure how they did it, but we were able to work around it. But this year, that's why those Florida teams are not on the schedule this year because of that Florida rule. We're trying to get things worked out for going into the future, but that's why I'm just telling you up front, that's why the Florida teams are not on that schedule for that marquee game this year because of that quirk in the scheduling Florida versus Georgia. Now, we do know that there's 2 teams out of the Carolinas that have been scheduled for this year. And that, remember, that was a 2-year deal. Last year, that marquee game, we called it the Georgia-Florida Challenge for obvious reasons. And that was played at Martin Stadium. So this year, we're going to return the favor, and we're going to travel to the Hog Pen. And Lowndes is going to play a 4:00 game on a Saturday afternoon in MacTharp Stadium. And so that's going to be interesting. That is going to be one hot afternoon. So be prepared. I don't know if Colquitt County allows umbrellas in their stadium, but that's a good day to allow an umbrella in their stadium, even if it is not raining, just to provide the fans with a little bit of shade. Because I plan on bringing an umbrella for my mom. She's 72 years old, and I don't want her in the 4:00 August sun for 3 hours. So I hope they have the foresight to allow umbrellas. And, I'm not accusing them of anything. I don't know if they allow that in their policies or not. So anyway, 4:00 game, that is going to be what? Christ High School, I think, out of North Carolina. And then the nightcap, the Colquitt game is going to be against Dutch Fork out of South Carolina. And, that team's got legendary coach Tom Knotts, because every time there was a big opening for a head coach around here, his name is always thrown out because he's one of these legendary coaches. tons of wins under his belt, 20 something state championships at multiple schools. So the guy knows what he's doing. So I expect that second game to be a very, very entertaining game. Now, is that first game with Lowndes going to be an entertaining game? No, it's not. Lowndes is going to win that one easily. I'm just telling you, they just are. But it's going to be a good tune-up game. So it's going to be a good tune-up game. Now, the schedule for the most part is going to be the same as last year. Now, we've got to replace a couple teams. Trainer, you hit on it. You know, those Florida schools, we had a couple of Florida schools, you know, American Heritage. You had, Gadsden High School, I believe. Was there another one? I can't remember. But all those Florida schools had to be replaced, right? So we haven't gotten word on who that Gadsden game is going to be replaced with yet. So as soon as that comes out, we'll get that information to you. Now, speaking of Lowndes, let's talk. Well, guys, I forgot. Let me go ahead and thank our sponsors before we get too much into this. I want to thank because these guys, they've really done a jam up job. They basically returned most of them, 95% of them returned and renewed their sponsorship, including, I'm proud of this one, including Pepsi. Pepsi of Valdosta, Doyer Deloach believes in what we're doing. Yeah, he renewed for another year. So I want to make sure that we give them the props that they deserve. Whether your flavor of choice is Pepsi, Mountain Dew, Rockstar, Mountain Dew Energy, their new lemon and lime drink called Starry. I've tried it a couple times. It's actually a very, very good drink. So I hope you guys take advantage of these Pepsi products. What's your favorite Pepsi product, by the way? We also want to thank Kyle Conger at White Oak Investment. He also sponsors our White Oak Investment comment line. So all the things that you guys put up there in comments, Kyle sponsors all that stuff. So thank you so much, guys. If you need financial assistance, if you need financial advice, then Kyle is a fantastic guy to have in your corner. And he owns a company called White Oak Investment, 229-850-8848. We thank our buddy Tim Neesmith, Stickman, with a shade of perfection. Guys, if you need custom shades and blinds, there's no one better in the business. He will make your house pretty. He will, because half the value of your home is from a curb appeal. When someone drives up to your home and they're interested in, one of the first things they see are the window treatments. So let Tim and his crew help make your house beautiful by customizing your shades and blinds. A shade of perfection, 229-251-3479. We also want to thank these guys. These guys renewed this week, Josh Batson and Justin Haskin with the Migraine and Spine Clinic of Valdosta. They are also sponsoring our call-in line. So tonight at 7:30, when Sam Horn calls, he will be calling in on the Migraine and Spine Clinic of Valdosta hotline. So we want to make sure that we give these guys all the kudos, because they are considered experts when it comes to treating migraines, right? They are the certified headache medicine specialist in this area, not just Valdosta, but this entire region. So give Josh and Justin a call, the Migraine and Spine Clinic of Valdosta. We thank Matthew Godwin at Verizon Wireless on Perimeter Road. Guys, if you need iPhones, Androids, accessories, small business accounts, a buddy of mine I saw at church the other night, he said, man, I went into the Verizon store on Perimeter Road. Matthew did a jam-up job, helped me solve my problems, ended up getting a new phone from him. Everybody's happy when they walk away of an interaction with Matthew Godwin. So he can be reached at Verizon Wireless on Perimeter Road. We want to thank Steve Nichols with Freedom of Steve Nichols. Guys, if politics is your cup of tea and you like to get into those types of debates, this is your guy. Whether you're on the right, on the left, in the middle, this guy will get you stirred up Monday through Friday, 6 to 8 a.m. Give him a shout at freedomnetworks.com, and he can be seen every Monday through Friday, 6 to 8 a.m. This is our newest sponsor. Let me tell you about this one, Aqua Works Pool Company. This is a local boy made good, Chandler Kudik. He's not a boy anymore. He's a well-respected young man. You can give him a shout at 229-415-0752. And he and his partner just released a special that just started yesterday when March came around. And that is, if you need pool service and you sign up in the month of March, you get a month free. And their prices are not bad to begin with. They're really, really good prices. So guys, if you're getting your pool ready, if you want to make sure the pH level is right, make sure that water is crystal clear and beautiful for the pool season, give Chandler a call at AquaWorks Pool Company, and he will hook you up. And thank you so much to all those fine sponsors. Hope the Vikings do well now that we're not in 7A anymore. Adam is a big Tift County Blue Devil fan, and what he's saying is, his Blue Devils are not in 7A anymore. But Adam, that's for this coming season. But starting next season, when consolidation happens and they eliminate the top class, they go back to 6 classes. I think we're gonna all be in the same region again. What do you guys think about that? Are you looking forward to the day when we're back to 6 classes, or do you think we're good with 7? So we'll see. I kind of like the idea of going back to 6 classes and having a bigger region. Last year, well, the year before, when we had 4 teams in the region, we only had 3 region games. This year's a little bit better. We've got 5 teams in the region and 4 region games. So it's a little bit better, but I'm hoping that if we go to 6 classes, we're going to get more. We're going to pick up more teams back in our class. Trainer says, yeah, Tiff will be taking Richmond Hill's place. So, Trainer, you think that Richmond Hill is going to be leaving the region once we go back to 6A? Adam says Tifton may drop down to 5A. They might. I don't think they will. Adam. I think your Blue Devils are on a crash course with the old region once again. So, when we did 7 classes and Tiff got realigned to Class 6A, I thought it was a good move for Tiff County, just so they could take a couple of years to, get their program in order. When I talk about their program, I'm talking about obviously the football program, because their coach, Noel Dean, he was a first-year head coach, and coming into a region like 1-7A, that's a tall order. And so I thought going down to 6A would be a good, there was nothing wrong with 6A. It wasn't region 1-6A. It was a very strong competition. But I thought that couple of years of being down in 6A would do them good. It really would. And so I think next year when they rejoin our region, I think they're going to be better than ever. Now, one of 2 things is going to happen. Tiff County is going to be better, or I think they're going to have a new head coach, one or the other. Now, I'm not talking about this upcoming season. I'm talking about the fun, because I think this upcoming season is going to be a make or break season for Noel Dean up there. Now, I don't have anything to get up. Now, please don't misunderstand me. Please don't, Adam or whoever's watching, please don't run back to, and I'm not saying you will, Adam, but I'm just using your name for example. Please don't go back to Noel Dean and the Tiff County administrators and say, Larry said Noel Dean's going to get fired. No, I didn't. I said this upcoming season is, I think, going to be a make or break season for Coach Dean at Tiff County. I think he's going to need to show some pretty dramatic improvement with that program and get it going in the right direction. So, that's what I mean. So, sometimes when we talk about programs and we talk about the coaches and we talk about the potential for a coach being on the hot seat, people get offended by that because they think we're talking about their coach and making fun of them. That's not the case at all. Guys, this is a sports show. This is a real talk sports show. And that's just all there is to it. So, man, I have made a major blunder here. What the heck? Dang it. Well, I think what I'm going to have to do. Oh, man. All right. So here's the mistake that I just realized that I made. So I have Sam Horn calling in at 7:30 in 5 minutes. And I don't have my telephone cable to hook up to my mixer board so he can actually call in at 7:30. So, in a couple of minutes, what I'm going to have to do is go to a commercial break. And when I say commercial break, I'm talking about just about 30 seconds, long enough for me to run and get that cable so we can get that taken care of. So I apologize ahead of time. That's what's going on. So leading up to that, let's talk about some of the other things. We'll come back to Lowndes football because there's so many things that's going on with the spring sports right now that I want to make sure that we talk about some of these kids. Last week we had on Rashawn Benjamin on the show. He is the boys basketball coach, and they're coming off of a pretty good season. Won the region and fell in the playoffs to Pebblebrook by a score of 50-48. Golly, Pebblebrook scores a game-winning layup with seconds left on the clock to pull out that win. And then the girls basketball team made it to the Sweet 16 round, and they fell to Archer High School by a score of 56-53, where the Lowndes girls had 3 looks at 3 points, 3-pointers late in the game, and just every shot just failed to fall. And that's how they ended up losing that game and ended their season. But Antonia Tukes, the girls basketball head coach, and the Vikings have had a fantastic season. They were also Region 1-7A champs. So we recognized that last week. So congratulations to the boys and girls basketball programs at Lowndes. Other programs in this area have had pretty good years. They weren't stellar years, given the expectations around here, but they were good years. And, that Lowndes program in particular, this is the last couple of years where I remember having Coach Benjamin on the show last year. And I asked him this question. I said, how close do you think you are to having this program, like being recognized as a very, very good basketball program in the state of Georgia? And they were just a couple of baskets away from doing that. That's what he recognized. And that's what I see as well. So they're right there at the cusp of being a really, really good basketball program. And I can't wait until they make that leap get over that hump to do that. We talked about Lowndes baseball. They're currently 5-3 on the year. They're in Hoover, Alabama tonight, taking on Daphne High School at 7:30 p.m., which starts in a couple of minutes here. And so, that baseball program, we're expecting big things out of them as well. The fantastic. Let me go ahead and recognize some of those players. You got these are not necessarily the starters, but you got Garrett Carter, Tate Sermons, Caleb Moore, Frank Rupp, Caleb Thornton, Cooper Melvin, Weston Turner, Coleman Lewis, Carson Page, Nate Slaughter, Cray Lott, Ashton Bowler, Maddox Harrell, Noah Thigpen, Cooper Scruggs, Luke Register, Kyle Alonzo, Hayden Hall, Jackson Hill, Jordan Hudson, Jack Lockhart, Jude Jeremio, I think, Leighton Shelton, Ty Macera, Eli Willis, Braden York, Drew Inman, and Kason Fletcher. So good luck to Coach Page and the Lowndes Vikings baseball team this year. Now let's get back to our football talk, and that is Kenneth Hurst says Tift County's got a new quarterback. I think they do have a new quarterback, and which is a recognizable name. Kid named Chris Martin. He started out at Fitzgerald High School, played there, moved and transferred over to Lee County and played for a season for Dean Fabrizio and the Lee County Trojans. And at the kind of close to the end of last season, transferred back to Fitzgerald, but has since transferred to Tift County High School and is projected to be their starting quarterback this year. So we'll see how Chris Martin does at the Tift County level. So guys, this is where I promised you that I've got to go get that cord so Sam can call in. So I will be right back. Let me just go ahead and we'll go ahead and put our countdown timer back on. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
There's a lot of people that make it out and forget where they came from. But I want to take y'all back where it all started from.
Let me tell you about my city, a little town where I'm from, where everybody's southern raised, just as good as they come. backwoods and mossy oak and mud holes. And back then we only ate what the farm grow. Man, I miss some days how we played on them dirt roads. And all the towners came with respect, cause they know we all close. Yeah, Southern pride, toting gun folks. Welcome to my city, I-75 South, just north of Lava.
I'm from a city called Austin, Georgia, right on the border of Florida. I was raised on these dirt roads, mud tires, spin backwoods when we ride. This is small town living, yeah. Now welcome to my city, downtown, 229, turn it up so they can hear it loud. We eddy up with big trucks and heavy G's, pretty girls with moonshine and whiskey.
It's nothing like our dirt roads, you can bet that, son.
Sorry to interrupt the video because I love that song. I really do. So anyway, guys, this is what the holdup was. This $10 cable was the difference between me being able to accept a phone call or not into this mixer board. So Sam Horn, if you're watching, if you're listening, go ahead and call in because we're ready now. We're ready. But we were talking about football and we were talking about Tiff County's new quarterback. Is that a good move for Chris Martin? Well, I guess if he wants to play, because he lives there in Fitzgerald and it's pretty close to him, it's proximity wise. But is it a good fit? Sometimes when we talk about programs getting coaches or players or this person or that person, sometimes we talk about it. Are they a good fit for a program? So we don't know because we've never seen Chris Martin in action at Tiff County High School. But what we do know is Noel Dean does like to run that pistol veer. Is that going to be a good system for Martin? We don't know. I think Chris is now officially a 3-star quarterback, I think. So he's got some talent. He's got some recognizable talent. Is it going to be put to the best use there at Tiff County? So guys like Adam Estes, is it Estes or Estes? Adam, you probably know more than we do about Chris Martin and his capabilities in the Noel Dean offense. I mean, is he going to be a good fit for a pistol veer? So we'll see. We'll see. As we wait for Sam Horn to call in tonight, I got a question for you guys. I got a question for you. What do you think about NIL money making it down to the high school level? I've got some strong opinions on this myself, but what do you guys think about it? Let's see. People are texting me crazy nonsense messages while I'm on the air. Y'all stop that. Just stop that. So here's what I mean by NIL money. You do know what NIL is, right? Name, image, likeness. The phenomenon that is sweeping college football. These major college football programs, and the NCAA, they just don't know what to do about NIL. They let that genie out of the bottle. And this is basically a concept where you're paying players now not to play football per se or baseball or whatever sport they choose, but to allow them to make money off of their likeness by, them promoting brands, using their image, that kind of stuff. Now, trust me, it is coming to the high school level. I don't see how you can keep it out. I don't think you can make it illegal, can you? Let me ask you a question. What is the difference between a high school kid working at Chick-fil-A? They're working for a living. They've got a job. They're going to school. So what is the difference between a kid working at Chick-fil-A and a kid that's working for a car dealership promoting that brand of cars, and they just happen to play football at the local high school? What's the difference? Is there any difference? I don't see any difference. Can you really make a rule that tells a kid, as long as he's, legal age to work, can you really make a rule that says you're not allowed to promote a brand? No, you can't make a rule about that. So what do? I'm telling you guys, it's coming. I don't know when, but it is coming. And when it does, it has the potential to change the landscape of high school football. So I think that's what these high school organizations like the GHSA, the Florida Association, pick your state. They're really, really wrestling with this idea right now. They're trying to figure out, how do we manage this? Because I think they realize they can't prevent a kid, especially if they're old enough to legally work in the state of Georgia. I think they realize they can't prevent a kid from working and using their likeness to promote a brand. Coach Trainer says North Georgia already does NIL. They just call it transferring. Now that's funny. That's funny. Now I put some thought into this. What we're talking about is basically boosters. Everything comes back down to boosters, because when NIL happens, when it happened at the college level, what happened? All these booster clubs started creating something called collectives, where they basically collect a big pot of money and they control these organizations. Basically, they control which players get offered the big time money and that kind of stuff. Is that going to happen at the high school level? I think this is where the Georgia High School Association and other associations really need to focus their effort in getting ahead of this thing. When I make this next statement, I'm not accusing any booster club of doing anything nefarious. But what I'm saying and what I'm calling for is the Georgia High School Association to get ahead of this thing and start to look at adopting rules that say boosters have to stay out of this NIL deal. If a kid and his parents or her parents want to negotiate with a local business and go to work for them and use their likeness, that's one thing. But you cannot allow boosters to get involved. You just can't, because that's where problems start to arise, right? So you have to look at putting rules in place that, one, prevents any type of booster member from reaching out to a kid and offering them money to do that. And the two, I think you need to put in place a rule that tells a student athlete that it's fine that you use your image and likeness to promote a brand or product, service, whatever, but you cannot connect it to the school, because the school owns their intellectual property. The school owns their brand, that kind of stuff. And so the school's brands are basically managed by the GHSA. That's basically what we're talking about here. So if that's the case, if a kid wants to promote a brand or whatever, they cannot do it wearing the school colors, wearing the school logo, the school brand, or anything. You got to create a separate window, if you will, a clear line between the two. And I think that's really the only two ways that you're really going to effectively manage it. You can't control it, but you can at least try to manage it, right? Because the last thing that we want to do is having booster clubs really just run roughshod over the rules now. And now you're basically talking about the wild, wild west, right? So anyway, that's basically what's happening. NIL is coming. We just don't know when it will get here. Technically, I think they can already do it. I don't think there's any rule that prohibits players from working, right? That's what we're doing. Like if a football player went to work for Chick-fil-A or McDonald's or the local car wash or wherever they wanted to work, what is the difference between that and a student athlete going to work for a local company promoting their brand? There's no difference at all. None. So that's why I said it's impossible to do away with that. Now, there is one difference that if a kid, like a big name player, let's just pick a name. Okay. Let's just pick a name. Back in his heyday, when Greg Reed was the Mr. Football of Georgia, can we all agree that when he was in his heyday, his limelight at Lowndes, he was basically Mr. Football in the state of Georgia? I think he was, in my opinion. He was that good of a player. Let's say we had NIL back then. Would it be a good idea to allow Greg to set up shop on his own to basically sign autographs? So he sells his autographs. So can you do anything to limit that? Again, I think if you had a rule in place that that you adopt where you can't control stuff like that, but you can say, Greg, you can sell all the autographs you want. You just can't put the autographs on products, jerseys, whatever from Lowndes High School. You can't have your game jersey. You can't have any likeness of the school. You can't have the school colors that you're signed because that's the school controls that. So, and then too, I think these schools have got to do a better job of managing their brands. Now it's a little bit different when you're talking about a local high school and your brand and intellectual property and that kind of stuff. Who actually owns that? That is a taxpayer? Does the school? Is it, basically common property rights are involved? Those are all very, very complicated legal questions. But what I'm saying is I think the GHSA would be wise to try to get ahead of this thing and go ahead and look at adopting some of these rules, at least start to explore them. Like, okay, we definitely have to keep boosters out of it. There's no way. Coach Trainer says, on the White Oak Investment comment line, he says, yes, Greg was the player of the decade for Georgia. I agree with that statement. I really do. Let me go ahead and text Sam. It's like, where are you? Because he was going to have some interesting information or news to share with us tonight. Valdosta is going through they're going through an off season as well. And, they were a pretty good team last year, as we saw. And they're expected to be an even better team this year. And there's some things that are happening during the offseason. One of the big things that really happened was, when Zach Grage left Lowndes, he is now at Valdosta, from what I'm being told, as a co-offensive coordinator. Now, if you Valdosta guys are out there and you know differently, give me a shout, send me a text, call into the show, let me know, because we would like to know that. But that's what I'm being told. And that's one of the things I was hoping Sam would be able to clarify tonight, because he is one of the ultimate Wildcat insiders. So anyway, as we wait for him to call in, NIL, I think, is here to stay. I think it has almost ruined college football. I think with NIL and the combination of the transfer portal, those two things put together have basically turned college football into a semi-pro league for the NFL and the XFL, the USFL, whatever FL that you have now. Is it going to do the same for high school football? Could you imagine a booster club? Let's just pick one. Let's just pick on. I think this is Sam right here. Hey, caller, welcome to the Viking Nation Live. What's on your mind?
Hey, what's up, Larry? This is Sam.
Sam, my main man, the ultimate Mr. Wildcat insider. How are you, man?
Doing good.
Hey, Sam, before we get into the football talk, let me get real with you here for a second, man. I want to pass along my condolences to the Wildcat Nation for the loss of Mr. Wildcat himself, and that's Marcus Rogers. I was very, very saddened to hear of Marcus's passing this past week, and just my condolences out to the entire Wildcat family, man.
Yes, sir. That's a Wildcat legend right there, man.
He sure was. Let me tell you a quick story about Marcus Rogers. He and I did not know each other for the longest time, and we really didn't know each other at all. All I knew was he was a Wildcat fan, and he knew that I was a big Lowndes guy. And so he and I would call into Phil Jones's radio show when Phil was on the radio back in the day. And we would basically poke fun at each other. And what made it worse was he's a big Florida Gator fan and I was a Georgia fan. So we really went at it during football season. Everything was kept in fun and jest, right? So then I made some appearances on Phil Jones's show, and Marcus would call in, and we started to develop a pretty good relationship and ultimately a respect for one another. And several years ago, he and I became friends. And so that's what I think high school football can do for a community, is to bring rivals together where they end up as friends. And Marcus was just the epitome of what a high school football fan should be all about. And I tell you, man, I was saddened to hear of his passing, and I'm going to miss him a great deal.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So listen, man, I appreciate you calling in to the show tonight because there's some stuff that's going on. Not just for Lowndes, but Valdosta. First of all, let's talk about, last year you appeared on our show and you made this prediction, and no one believed you at the time, including myself, that Valdosta was going to be a really, really good football team, and they're going to be led by a very stout defensive side of the ball, and it's going to carry. And you predicted that you guys would come in. You were going to challenge Colquitt County for the region, and at worst, you're probably going to finish second.
Yeah.
And that's what happened.
Yes, sir.
I was shocked. So you had some pretty good insight last year. Now I'm interested in a conversation tonight to see what kind of insight that you have for this upcoming season. What do you expect out of your Wildcats this year?
I mean, just based off of last year, I think our defense is going to be a whole lot better than it was last year. So that'll be a good thing. Now,
wait, did you just say your defense is going to be even better than it was last year?
Yes, our defense will be better than last year.
It was a pretty dang good defense last year.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I mean, we got a kid. We got Legend. He transferred from Brooks County.
Okay.
But last year he transferred from Brooks County.
Oh, he transferred last year.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
He got ruled ineligible, so he couldn't play last year.
Okay.
But when I tell you he's a freakish athlete.
Yeah.
That could play both sides of the ball, but mainly he's a cornerback. But he's coming back, and then we got the defensive front coming back.
Okay.
Besides TJ Morrison is leaving, but we still got Bradley and Boo Man coming back, which is 9 and 10. And then
now Boo Man is Omar White.
Omar White,
okay.
Yeah, we call him Boo. Yeah. Then we got linebacker Amari Tumlin. He coming back. And then we got our secondary. Our secondary is probably going to be our strong point this year.
Okay.
So, yeah, we're going to be good defensively. I think we're going to be a whole lot better than last year.
Okay.
Defensively. And then offensively, right now, we got Coach Zach Graves and Coach Hardival. They're the co-offensive coordinators.
Wait a minute. You just used a name that is very familiar to the Viking Nation in Zach Graves. So you can confirm that Zach Graves is over there at Valdosta.
Yeah. Zach Graves is a Wildcat.
Zach Graves to go from crimson and white to the black and yellow in one season. In what capacity is he going to be on the coaching staff? Is he is a offense coordinator, wide receivers coach? What is he going to be?
He's going to be offensive coordinator. He's co-offensive coordinator.
Okay.
Him and Coach Hardival. Now I think the duties would be split.
Okay.
I don't know who's going to be the passing game coordinator. I don't know who's going to be the run game coordinator. But I do know that that Coach Graves is coaching running backs, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, and Coach Hardival got the quarterback. So that might be a little insight on who's going to be calling this and calling that. But, yeah, we got those two are the co-coordinators, offensive coordinator. And we got Todd. We got Todd coming back.
Okay.
Quarterback. He's going to be a whole lot better than he was last year. He's been in the weight room, putting in that work. He's been in the weight room, putting in that work, getting better, and on the field every day after practice. Every day after school, he's out there throwing the ball before and after school. So he's going to be a whole lot better than he was last year.
You want to share a comment with you?
What?
This is so funny.
What did they say?
This comes from a Georgia coach trainer. He says, Cat's going to be the first team to score negative points running that single wing tee of Grages.
Nah, I can guarantee that. I can guarantee that won't happen over there. But yeah, And then we got like 4 offensive linemen coming back from last year.
Okay.
So that's a big.
Dang, man. You got the entire team coming back?
Majority, yeah.
Okay.
Majority. That's what I was saying last year. Like, we was kind of young last year, but we made a good run. This year is going to be an even better run. Now, I'm gonna be on the record early.
Okay.
I do really believe that it will be Valdosta and Moultrie once again.
Okay.
Competing for the region championship.
So you have you haven't upgraded my Lions Vikings at all in your projections.
Not yet.
Okay.
Only reason why is because you got question marks at quarterback.
That's right.
And then you got a new system that got to get implemented.
That's true.
So with that being said, I can't do that yet, and that's not even speaking on the Vikings, the Wildcat, and the Viking thing. They're just speaking from the football perspective overall.
I got you.
When you come in for the new system, it's gonna take time. So
I got you. Well, for our viewers and our listeners just joining in, guys, you guys are listening to Sam Horn, super fan of the Valdosta Wildcats. He is calling tonight on the Migraine and Spine Clinic hotline. So, Sam, you say most of the team is coming back.
Yep.
Can you dispel the rumors out there that the defense is going to be disrupted because, if you're in this town, we've all heard the stories about, potential shooting that happened, but the players that we think that's involved, they're coming back next year. They're going to be playing, right?
Yeah. Most definitely. Definitely. You're dealing with kids at the end of the day.
That's right.
And I mean, it was an unfortunate situation. They was out, doing what kids do, enjoying themselves. And, some things happen outside of their control. But at the end of the day, we're going to move forward, and they'll be on the football field.
I got you. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So moving past that, so you're expecting a pretty good showing. Most of the teams coming back. You're thinking that Valdosta is going to challenge Colquitt again for the region crown. I'm just curious, man. So where do you place my Lions Vikings? If you had your crystal ball and you could look.
The crystal ball right now, I would say Lions would probably in fourth in the region.
Did you say third or fourth?
I would put fourth in the region behind Camden County.
Ooh, man.
Yeah. I would put, and the only reason why I'm doing that is because I'm looking at established programs.
Okay.
I'm looking at Moultrie returning. They got a good quarterback. He's coming back. You got the stud, Nakar, Georgia commit. You got Landon Thomas, Georgia commit, and then you had a lot of those kids on the defensive side is coming back.
That's right.
And so they're not gonna miss a beat. And then I look at Valdosta. Valdosta is well more grounded than Lions is because of just the type of players that they got coming back. And then you got a coach that's been in place, which will be his third season.
Yeah. And
then I look at Camden County, Coach Hen, he's been over there for 3 or 4 years now. So, Lions, it's going to take time. It's not going to be nothing that's going to happen overnight. Now, I do think that Lions will have a good defense.
Yeah.
I do think that. But offensively, that's where the question mark is going to rise with me.
I got you. So last year, the Valdosta offense was predominantly, and you disagree with me if you feel like you need to, but I saw the Valdosta offense was mainly a run first offense. I don't know if it was that by design and Shelton Felton just loves to run, or maybe it was the quarterback just inexperienced at throwing the ball and just didn't have enough experience under his belt, and he didn't turn him loose, or what was the case last year?
I mean, anytime you're going into a season with a sophomore quarterback, you're kind of gonna be at the edge of your seat on how you should use them.
Right.
I think last year, we had to live with the thing. We had to use what was good for Todd, and that was his leg.
Okay.
Now, can Todd throw the ball? He's okay at throwing, but he needed some work. And I think this offseason, that's what's going on. Working on the passing game. Now, I would say before Jalen Whitehead got hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, he was putting up some good numbers passing the ball. Even in that Lions game, you know, he threw some great balls. He threw a great ball to Jalen in the end zone, and the ball was dropped. I mean, so I think Valdosta would still be balanced, but I think Valdosta will throw the ball a lot more this year. If you go back and look at the state championship game from this past season, if you ain't scoring 35, 40 points a game, I mean, you behind.
That state championship game was amazing. Those were
amazing.
two thoroughbred offensive teams that knew how to score.
Yes. And just like, I mean, you look at Nick Saban, he said, I mean, nowadays, it's hard to stop these prolific offenses, man. Like, yeah, you can have a good defense, but you're just going to run into that team that's just going to make the more plays than you make offensively versus defensively. And that's what happened when we played Moultrie.
Gotcha.
But also played a great game, but it was things throughout the game that caused that off at the end, and Moultrie just made the better plays when it counted. So that's what I say, man. You got to be able to score points.
Yeah. Hey, before I let you go, I got to ask you this question, though. If you had to pick today, does Valdosta beat Lowndes in the Wintersville Classic for the second year in a row?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, that game is going to be at Bazemore Hyder this year.
Yeah. I'm gonna be honest with you. Larry. Last year, the game was closer. The score was closer than what the game showed.
Ooh, okay.
This year, you might see complete dominance.
Whoa.
And
listen,
I'm just being honest.
I'm going to create a clip, a short or a TikTok video or whatever. Sam Horn says Valdosta will dominate the Wintersville Classic.
It would be complete dominance with the type caliber kids. Okay, I'm gonna just tell you like this, Larry. Sometimes when you just got the better kids, there's nothing you can. I mean, coaching can't. There's nothing coaching can do.
Okay.
And I think in that game, Valdosta would just have better kids than Lowndes. And I'm talking about, like, you know, it's just levels of players. And when you got kids like 9 and 10, then you got these kids like Legends, and you got Ty coming back, and, you know, you got a couple of our running backs from last year coming back, like, and then a whole offensive line besides one kid, like, that's going to be hard to beat, man.
Yeah.
And now I'm not going to take nothing away from Carter, Adam Carter. Great defensive coach, great head coach. But sometimes talent outweighs coaching.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, guys, you heard it here first. Sam is predicting a complete dominance, and Valdosta is going to beat Lowndes for the second year in a row. So
yeah,
we'll have to wait and see. Sam, with that, I'm going to let you have the rest of your night, man. I appreciate you calling in, and keep in touch with the show.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you. Go Cat.
See you, man.
Yes, sir. Bye.
Oh my gosh! As soon as he said that, I figured some of you guys are probably coming unglued, coming out of your seats. You know, he said some things that were probably controversial. You know, it's Sam. He's going to tell you exactly what's on his mind, and that's what we like about him. You know, he's still a good guy. He's just, you know, kind of like I'm a Lowndes homer. Sam is a Valdosta homer, so he thinks that their players are just so much better than the Lowndes players this year, and for that reason, you heard him. He said that the Valdosta is going to dominate Lowndes. So Adam Carter, Ashley Anders, Don Bailey, Jamel Demps, y'all heard it. I'm giving you permission. Take this video, create a short with it, a reel or a TikTok, and play it in the field house every single day if you have to. What's what the man said? Yeah, David Griffin, I agree with you. Listen, some people get bent out of shape when a fan really, really brags about their team. Guys, that's what we all do. We're fanatics. We're fans for a reason. We're 99% of us are homers, and we see things through, in my case, I see things through crimson colored glasses. Sam sees things through yellow colored glasses. That's just the way it is. So I agree with you, David Griffin. You know, you're supposed to give credit to your team. Now, I think he stepped over the line. I'll be honest with you. I think he stepped over the line when he did a little bit more than give his team credit. But you know, by saying that his team's going to dominate Lowndes, I think that was taking it too far. But that's my opinion. So we'll see. We'll see what happens now. So the intrigue is starting to build. You know, the Wintersville Classic for the last several years has been very, very interesting off the field, because for the longest time it was Randy McPherson versus this coach, and those coaches are gone. So a few years ago it was Jamie DuBose versus Rush Probst, and that lasted for a year. Then it was Jamie DuBose versus Shelton Felton, and Jamie DuBose left. Then it was Zach Grage versus Shelton Felton. Now Zach Grage is migrated over to Valdosta. Now this upcoming season, it's going to be Adam Carter versus Shelton Felton. So that's the kind of backdrop, the kind of drama that we've had off the field leading up to the Wintersville Classic for the last several years. So it's going to, man, oh man, the fireworks are already starting for the Wintersville Classic. And here we are, March 2nd at 8:00. I can't believe he said that. Franklin Webb says, we have a lot of players coming back. Tierra Battle makes a very interesting comment. She says, I think a lot of Lowndes' potential didn't show because of coaching. Now that's Tierra, got to admit, that's a pretty strong statement. I mean, you're usually a mild-mannered person, but that's a pretty strong statement coming from you. I think, let that sink in. I think a lot of Lowndes' potential didn't show because of coaching. And Tierra continues, I don't necessarily think there's a different level in talent, in my opinion. And the game was as close as the score showed. The fans on both sides knew it too because of how they reacted in certain moments in the fourth quarter of the game. Those are strong words. Those are strong words. Oh, man. Caleb Arnold says this. FYI, if you're not following Lowndes' football Facebook page, Coach Carter gives daily behind-the-scenes videos. Go check it out. These guys are putting in work. Let me talk about that for a second. I think all of the Lowndes athletic programs have really, really stepped up their game as far as social media PR work. And I am so glad to see it. I think you guys would agree with that, right? Whether it's Adam Carter or Ryan Page with the baseball team or the basketball team, the golf teams, now the track team, they're all doing a really, really good job of promoting their brands, their programs now. They're using social media. Sometimes I don't think they're doing it quite right, but that's just my personal opinion because I've been doing this kind of stuff for a long, long time. But they're doing a lot better than they used to. A lot better. I don't know if that directive is coming down from Danny Redshaw or if the coaches got together and just decided to grab the bull by the horns, or maybe it's Adam Carter coming in and bringing some of his experience in social media with him. I don't know what the case is, but it's noticeable. So guys, keep it up. Whatever you're doing there in the Lowndes Athletic Pro, keep it up. Great stuff that you're doing. I'm glad to see it because it frees me up, because I was doing that stuff, especially for the football stuff, for the longest time. And when I see them doing that kind of stuff, it frees me up to do other more creative things. Like right now, so since football is starting to do more graphics and that kind of stuff, so I'm starting to turn my attention to seeing what other features and services. So I've got some tricks up my sleeve that I'll be unveiling during this upcoming season that I think is going to knock your socks off. I really do. And so we'll just see how it plays out. But interesting stuff. Great conversation tonight. We had some other topics to get to, but I think we're going to end it right there. Unless you guys want to keep on going. So it's already 8:05. I guess we can go for another half hour if you want me to. But Tierra Battle says, I'm just saying, let's be honest. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with being honest as long as we're being respectful, right? Franklin Webb, he asked this question when Sam was on the phone. Sam made this comment. He said, because of the question mark, at the quarterback position for Lowndes. That's why he doesn't really know how to project Lowndes in the region race. So Franklin Webb followed up with this question. I think it's a legitimate question. Is there a question about our quarterback? Now, from what I understand, Marvis Parrish is still our projected quarterback. Is there going to be a quarterback competition? That I couldn't tell you. Here's what we do know. We do know that one of the quarterbacks that left the program last year, Brooks Best, has returned to the program. Is he going to, I think he's returning for his senior year. Is he going to try to challenge for that position? I don't know. Now, I'm trying to put myself into his head. So he had a year at Valwood to grow a little bit as a starter. And so that gave him some valuable experience. The kid's got a good arm, and he's very, very accurate. He's not a dual threat quarterback, but he is mobile. So is that going to be enough to impress the new offensive coaches that are coming in? Because, with Don Bailey and Adam Carr, they've got a clean slate. There are no preconceived notions as far as which guy needs to be the starter and which one. So I would suspect as a fan, there probably will be a quarterback competition. Now, starting as QB1, I would expect Marvis Parrish to get the snaps with the first team in the spring and force these other players to either overtake him or fall by the wayside. That's what the spring season's all about. So we'll see. Coach Trainer says Marvis is definitely the starter and is the better of the two QBs when it comes to Lowndes and Valdosta. Whew, those are strong words too. Strong words. Coach, I think you would agree that that's based on what we've seen so far, and what we've seen, our experience shows us in high school is kids change dramatically from one season to the next, especially young players. If you've got two quarterbacks last year and they were both sophomores and one outplayed the other, I mean, it's no stretch of the imagination for the other quarterback to grow tremendously, because that's what teenagers do during the offseason and become an outstanding. So we just don't know. But I do expect there to be a quarterback competition at Lowndes. That's just my expectation. I could be totally wrong by that, but I would expect Marvis to get the nod at the QB1 role in the spring. Now, the other quarterback that we got to take a look at is Ty Snellgrove. He was I believe, was he a freshman last year? I think he was. And so, when Marvis got hurt during the Valdosta game last year, Ty came in the last minute or so, and he showed his arm strength. So the kid's got an arm. So we're going to have to wait and see how that shapes up. Wilbur Pelt, now we're getting into Lowndes versus Valdosta stuff back and forth. Wilbur says, our QB this is screen worthy, Wilbur. And guys, keep in mind, this is these comments are being brought to you by White Oak Investment and Kyle Conger. Wilbur says that our QB is as good, if not better, than their QB. Sam is biased as he should be. We'll see. Wilbur says, look for the best kid. Look for Brooks to move to receiver. Could be. We just don't know. Could be. Now, another player that I've been told is returning to the team. Y'all remember one of the quarterbacks that we had? I think it was number 5, I believe, before he left the team. And that was Paxton Ledwich, I believe. I believe he's coming back, but I don't know. I don't think he's going to be coming back as trying to play. Donna, I keep messing that up. I don't know why I call Tate Ty all the time. I do it every stinking time. You're right. I apologize for that. Tate Snellgrove. Why do I keep calling him Ty? I don't know. Tate Snellgrove should challenge for that. Now, another quarterback that was at Lowndes, Paxton Ledwich, is, I think I've been told, is rejoining the team. I don't expect him, I don't think, to try to come back in the quarterback role. Now, he is a big kid. So if I was a Lowndes coach, if I was Adam Carter, man, I would look at him and think that this kid's got potential as a potential linebacker. He's got potential as a tight end. So he is a big kid. And I don't know how fast he is. I've never seen him run, but if he's got any type of speed at all, then he might make a really, really good tight end. He played quarterback, so you got to think that he's got decent hands as a skilled player like that. So, transitioning to a linebacker with his big frame or a strong tight end, he's got a shot at doing that. So, I do expect a quarterback competition. I think competition at any level is healthy, whether you are an ingrained starter or not. It doesn't matter if you are Tom Brady. No one was going to beat Tom Brady out of a starting position. But if you're up and coming quarterback that was drafted by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you got to think that they wanted to play, right? So they're going to challenge Tom Brady and force Brady to keep getting better and keep staying sharp. And that's what competition does. What does the Bible say? Iron sharpens iron. So man shall sharpen man. So I expect a quarterback competition, and that's going to make Marvis even better. Wilbur says, saw him in the weight room this morning. He was huge. Wilbur, I'm assuming that you're talking about Ledwich. That's my assumption there. So yeah, the kid, he's a big kid. I mean, he has turned into a really big kid. Franklin Webb agrees with you. Competition is great. Absolutely. So some things just wrap up the show that we talked about tonight, where we talked about the NIL situation, and that is coming. Trust me, it is coming. We talked about some of the things that's happening around Lowndes Nation. I call it around the nation. Talk about some of the different sports programs going on. Now, next week, we're having Coach, I think, I can't remember his name. Anyway, the Lowndes wrestling coach. We're going to have the Lowndes wrestling coach on next week, as well as the Lowndes wrestlers that placed in the state tournament a couple of weeks ago. So we're going to have them as guests next week. We're going to have another coach in the community join us next week as well. Remember, what we're doing during the off season is we're allowing other community voices come onto the show, because we do recognize that it's kind of a slow period and other fans start to watch this show because everybody. So we're a community-based program. And so we're going to have another coach from the community join us next week. And that is the head coach from the Georgia Christian Generals down there. So he'll be joining us as well. So we got a pretty good show lined up for next week. We talked about the social media stuff that the Lowndes Athletic program is doing. Fantastic stuff. Thank you, Wendy Lasky, Spencer Graybill. I kept wanting to call him Grayson Bill. I don't know why. Spencer Graybill. You're exactly right. Thank you so much. And y'all, please forgive me for my sometimers. I'm approaching 53. I don't quite have Alzheimer's, but I do have sometimers. Sometimes it comes and sometimes it goes. That just comes along with getting older, I've discovered. So sometimes I forget to eat lunch sometimes. But Spencer Graybill is the wrestling coach. He'll be joining us next Thursday night, along with some of these wrestlers that did an outstanding job this season. And Winnie Lasky, I think your son is one of those that we're really looking forward to, those tremendous student athletes joining our program next week. So y'all stick with us, and we're going to have a fun off season. Now, the other interesting tidbit tonight was Sam Horn called in, big super fan for Valdosta. He talked about his expectations for the Valdosta program. And he made some interesting comments. We'll just leave it at that. But one of the most interesting, he did confirm that Zach Grage, former head coach for Lowndes, is now the co-offensive coordinator at Valdosta High School. That is going to make some tremendous drama for the Wintersville Classic next year, right? Tierra, I know I didn't take it as Tierra says I didn't mean any disrespect towards any coach in particular. I love the coaches on staff at the moment. The offensive game plan during the Wintersville of last year just made me scratch my head. It's all. I hope everyone has a great night. Tierra, I will say what you were trying to say. Our offensive game plan for the Wintersville class last year was awful. It was awful. I don't think it utilized any of the offensive talent that we had. You know what I expected in the Winsville Classic last year? I expected the game plan that we had for Grayson. Do you remember that one where we just came out so aggressive offensively and pushed the ball vertically downfield? We had a superstar wide receiver in Kevis Thomas. We had a kid in Marvis Parrish that could throw the ball. He got a strong arm, shown to be accurate down the field. And why we didn't push the ball more vertically in that game, I have no idea. It was obvious that we were not going to run very well on Valdosta's defensive front that night. And so to me, Tier, I think what you were trying to say was that offensive game plan was a head scratcher, right? Coach Trainer says, that's why I'm not worried about the Cats not now, Coach Trainer, be nice. Be nice. You know, the past is the past. Coach Grage is still a good man. He still has a fine family. And I'm sure he's going to do a good job over there. We're just not going to beat that dead horse, right? So we wish him well, except for that one game. Well, me personally, anyway, I wish the Cats well, except for that one game. Yeah, Wilbur, you know, when Sam said that he made that comment that he about our kids, our players were not to the level of their players. Now, that could be I'm sure he was being very, very genuine. I don't think it was a knock that he was trying. It didn't sound like he was saying it maliciously. In his mind, I'm sure that he was just trying to state a fact that he saw on the field, right? And I don't think it's any different than what Lowndes fans would say about other teams when we think that our kids are better than all these other players, right? I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that out loud, but it does make for some good bulletin board material. That is for sure. That is for sure. One of the things that we kind of touched on this year or early in the show was talking about the 7 classes. So not this upcoming season, but the following season, the 2024 season, when reclassification happens again, we're expecting to go back to 6 classes, and that's going to consolidate a lot of these teams. Will it grow at that? When that happens, we will we will be in Region 1-6A because that will be the new largest classification. Now, will the new Region 1-6A be a super region? Will it have a lot of new teams? Will it have, will Tift County be added to it? Will Richmond Hill stay in that? Will other teams on the coast like Brunswick or Glen Academy, will they stay in 6A? If they do, will they join our region? Or if Brunswick and Glen Academy stay in 6A, will that be enough to form another coastal region over there that could pull Camden County out of our region? Because I could see possibly a Region 2-6A that could include teams like South Effingham, Richmond Hill, Brunswick, Glen Academy, and Camden County. You basically have an I-95 coastal region in 6A. If that happens, then that pulls 2 teams, Richmond Hill and Camden County, out of our region. So who do you replace them with? So obviously you would have Valdosta, you would have Lowndes, you'd have Colquitt, Tift County, I think, would rejoin. Does that mean that other teams like maybe a Northside Warner Robins, maybe a Warner Robins, maybe a Lee County, maybe a Thomas County Central, do all these teams now join the new Region 1-6A? So, man, oh, man, that is going to be a fun offseason to speculate in. It just is. Tierra Battle says, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. The kids are so capable, and it just feels they weren't given a chance to win. That's all. They fought hard, though, for sure. Absolutely. That game, honestly, guys, that game was a lot closer than I expected it to be. I think a lot of people, if we're being honest with ourselves, Valdosta was heavily favored to win that game because their defense was just that good, right? And our offense struggled at times, but it showed flashes of greatness. It just never gelled consistently. And with that game plan in that game, it was just a head scratcher. And, I called that game with Scott Willis up in the booth when we live streamed that game. And I kept thinking, it's like, is this the game plan? I, I don't understand it. Why do you keep running into the teeth of that defense? I just don't understand it. David Gritz said Valdosta played a bunch of AA schools. That is true. They did play some weaker teams in their non-region schedule, David. But I still think that you still have to give them credit for being a very good team. Now, I think that your point, though, I think is well made in the fact that I don't think it prepared them for beyond the region schedule, right? Because you had Lowndes with a down year, you had Camden County with a so-so year, you had Richmond Hill with a down year, so they were going to be fine in the region. But what happened beyond the region? They didn't do very well, and they should have done a lot better than they did. And so I think part of that fed into that was their weaker non-region schedule. And so maybe that's the point that you're trying to make. If that was the point you're trying, I completely agree with you. Wilbur says, now this is interesting. Wilbur says that I believe Richmond Hill and Camden will go back to the coast, replace them with possibly Northside, Warner Robins, Tift, and Lee County, maybe. I don't think Lee County is going to be joining the new Region 16A. That's just my hunch, looking at their numbers, because they're one of the smaller 6A schools now as far as student population. And I know exactly how you're going to react when this comes out of my mouth. But according to the numbers, they have zero out of zone kids. I mean, you can complain. I can hear it now. You're rolling your eyes. You're complaining. You're saying Lee County recruits and transfers. I don't know. But all I know is on paper, they have zero out of district kids. None. So given that fact, I can't see them picking up enough kids to make the new cut, because they were one of the smaller 6A classification schools. So I think they'll probably go to the 5A classification if I'm not mistaken. Now, things could happen. They could pick up a lot of kids in 2 years to swell their patient population. I just don't think that's the case. Now, the more interesting question, Wilbur, is will Northside, Warner Robins, and Houston County join the new Region 16A with us? I think that's a distinct possibility. Houston County is a big school up there. You know, they've got 5 high schools in that county, but Houston County is a big county. And, you know, Northside, Warner Robins in particular, Houston County in particular, those 2 schools have a really, really good shot at being in the new Region 16A. So I would not be surprised if the new Region 16A in a couple of years, and I know this is way, way too premature. We haven't played 2023 yet, but 2024 will be here before we know it. Listen, how do I know that? Because I'm 52 and Mom said that when you get older, time flies by. And she was right. And if you're older, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So 2024 will be here before we know it. So given that fact, it would not surprise me, Wilbur, to see that new Region 16A be something like Valdosta, Lowndes, Colquitt, right? That gives 3 teams. You got Tift County in there. That gives us 4 teams. Then I would throw, I mean, there's a really, really good chance I would throw Northside, Warner Robins, and Houston County in there. And that would give us a 6-team region. And I think that's a pretty strong region. Do y'all remember years ago, back during the 08, 09, maybe 2010 years, I can't remember exactly, when we had the super region, we had basically just about all the Houston County schools were in our region. I know that Northside, Warner Robins, and Valdosta, Lowndes, Colquitt, Tift County were all in one super region. Man, that was so fun. I remember Northside, Warner Robins came down to Martin Stadium, and they had this tremendous win streak. And that game was broadcast on ESPN that night, and it was a fantastic game. And Lowndes just wore down Northside, Warner Robins and won that thing in the 4th quarter and ended the Eagles' consecutive win streak. Man, that was fantastic. Coach Trainer says that he heard the veterans may be in it also. Yeah, very well could be. So that would give us, if that's the case, that would give us potentially a 7-team region. right? So I would expect Camden County would, if that turns out to be true and they create a new coastal region over there, I would expect that Camden will probably dominate that region for at least a couple of years. Cause I don't think Coach Herron's going to do this much longer. He came back, I think, to retire in that system. They needed somebody to jumpstart the Wildcat program over there. And it was just a good fit. But I don't know how much longer he's going to do it. I just don't expect him to do it very much longer. So I would expect him probably to stick around for another couple of years if in fact this new region works out, where he sets up the program for success, dominates the region for a couple of years, and then rides off into the sunset. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, Coach Trainer's helping me with my memory. He says that Lowndes was number 2 in the nation at the time, and Northside Warner Robins was number 10 in the nation. And man, was that a great football game. That was a fantastic game. Wilbur Pelfrey says, that was a coming out party, a coming out game for Telvin Smith. Boy, was it ever. And Telvin Smith, we saw how history was written. Telvin Smith was a dominant player. Man, I love to watch that kid play defense. So anyway, fun times ahead. Fun times ahead. I'm looking forward to next week's show. Y'all stick around. We're obviously going to talk about football a little bit more, but we're trying our best during the off season to have other coaches, have other community members that deal with athletics in this community to come onto the program, talk about that, to keep everybody informed. So I think we've got a pretty good format for the off season. Y'all stick with us, right? Y'all stick with us. And we thank our sponsors for continuing to sponsor us in this upcoming season. So with that said, guys, my voice is struggling, so I'm going to call it a night. You guys have a fantastic night. May God bless you. And as always, go Vikings. Adios.